Welcome to our March edition of Let's Get Growing, and in March there's many things to do in the landscape, so let's get going. So in March we need to prepare all our beds for spring planting, and the way that we're going to do that is by adding 2 or 3 inches of compost in a layer over the bed and work it in, and that's going to give us enough nutrients to make it through the season. Now for that you can use compost, pine bark mulch, and peat moss, but I steer away from peat moss because it's a dwindling resource, and also if you've ever noticed when you till it into your beds are all fluffy and tall, and then in 6 months they've deteriorated down to half of the height that they were. That's because it has disintegrated into the landscape. Now would be the time to mow those freeze-damaged Asiatic jasmine beds and also the lyrope. So remember, after you've mowed your jasmine and lyrope beds, then you just need to put some pine bark mulch in there to make sure we're not growing weeds. Remember that you've got to mow those lawn areas as needed and take it down, don't scalp the lawn, but we want to take it down as low as we can. We're going to mow low in the spring, and then as the temperature rises, we're going to raise our mowing height. Remember to prune your spring blooming shrubs after they've bloomed. And that will encourage, because remember, spring blooming shrubs are going to bloom on old growth. So after you pruned them, we're going to have new growth that then becomes aged, and we get a lot of flowers next spring. All right, we're going to prepare our beds for that spring planting by spading in 3 to 5 inches of organic matter and work into the area 8 or 10 inches deep. Add 3 to 5 pounds of cottonseed meal or slow release organic fertilizer at the rate of 3 to 5 pounds per 100 square feet, and you'll have lovely beds all year long. Compost is also good to add at 3 to 4 inches over the top of the soil and work it in. Fertilize all your beds except azaleas. Hold off on the azaleas because they're going to be blooming, and we're going to have to wait until after they bloom. And then remember, many trees and shrubs and lawns are killed every year by using weed and feed. Try and wean your lawn off of that. If you are using it, keep it out from underneath the drip line of trees, and remember to read the label and follow the instructions closely. But weeds mean a poor management program for your lawn. So if you are mowing regularly and fertilizing and bagging it, you should have a grand lawn, and it should be full and thick, and then there's no place for weeds to grow. We're going to mulch all newly planted areas, bare spots, and around trees. But when you mulch around trees, please don't volcano mulch and then pull all the mulch at least 4 inches away from the trunk. Things we need to watch for will be aphids on the new growth of everything. If you see it, just use the insecticidal soap, or you can wash them off with a strong spray of water. Beware of closeouts on bare-rooted trees and shrubs and even roses, because their survival rate is low this time of season. But buy container-grown or ball and burlapped plants and trees, and you should be just fine. And remember, we need to feed the birds. Well, today we're going to show you how to get airplanes from the airplane plants. That's how they got their name. But this is our stock plant for the greenhouse, and as you can see, when they send out these runners, they've got these little babies, and on the bottom of each one are roots. And this is a type of Jew, usually called Moses in the boat, and you can see that it grows really close together, so it makes a beautiful plant. Now, if you give it a little bit of sun, it'll elongate. I mean, not enough sun, it'll elongate. So this has been grown in full sun, but you can see how crammed full it is. So, in the interest of the health of this plant, we're going to go ahead and make some cuttings. Now, you can see when I pull this off, I'm having a little bit of trouble because it's already started to root. So, we now can also see the root initiation, these little green spots where they're trying to initiate root growth. So all you have to do is, and it doesn't even need a root, is just, we've got our potting soil and it's moistened. And so we just make a hole and then make sure we get the root in there, and then we just firm the soil around it. The most important thing is to make sure that it's stable in its environment, that it's not moving around. Okay, as you can see, this little airplane off this airplane plant has many roots, and we're going to start out by just removing this, and then we're going to cut them individually. We don't need this long stem. And then, as you can see right here, the roots are kind of entangled with this stem. So we're going to cut close here. And now we have 3 viable plants. Now sometimes it'll be a little bit hard for you to distinguish how to plant it, but as you can see, it becomes quite clear once you've cleaned it up. Now then, once again, we're just going to take the moistened soil, make a deep crevice hole. See how I put the roots in? Let's do that again. Crevice and roots down, top up, and then firm the soil. Gently but firmly. Don't cram it in like it's concrete. We want to gently pack. But what did I tell you? It needs to be stable. And we can tell that's quite stable. Now then, just kind of comb them up so that they cooperate. If they don't, pull them off. Because if you put them in the soil, then they're going to rot, and then they could cause a fungus. Once again, we're making a deep crevice. We put it in, and we firm. Maybe if you have trouble rooting this way, you can also just take, let me find one that's down low enough. This looks like a perfect candidate. And we can see how it has the roots. We pull off this errant leaf, but I'm not going to pull it off the plant. I'm going to leave it on the mother plant, that's what we call them, and then you would just make a hole, put it in here, and leave it attached to the plant. Remember, I firmed it in here? But it's going to be easier for it to pull out because now it's attached to the mother plant. It'll give it a little bit of nutrients through this stem and continue to grow roots, and then you'll get more leaves, and then you just cut the stem, like sever the cord. Actually, plant these outside, airplane plants and Moses in the boat. They're perennials and they'll come back every year for you. After doing all of that, you're going to be ready for spring, and you will have one of the best landscapes on the block. So, grow on.